Power Producers Shop Talk, where we are refining and redefining the sales game by equipping you with the tools you need to differentiate yourself in the marketplace. Tactical skills that will help you provide deliverable value to your clients and prospects.
Here, these are conversations that will differentiate you from your competition. Now, if you don't want to be different than your competition, probably should just go ahead and shut this off.
And action items that you can provide to take your prospects and clients to the next level.
Like when we audit the mod and do the mod master and give them the actionable items that they can do in order to lower their cost of risk.
This is Power Producers Shop Talk. Production redefined.
Reasonable and what wasn't, and I think that that's spot on. And these people that we're talking with don't necessarily understand what their exposures are and what they can even do about them when they're uncovered. So I do like that what we're able to provide is something tangible, action items that they can do.
Are you ready to feel the power?
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Friday Power Producers Shop Talk. And let me tell you, we have been getting some really positive feedback about these Friday episodes. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, I highly recommend you do that. Look for Killing Commercial Insurance on YouTube. Subscribe to it. And here's why. Number one, we leak the podcast to the YouTube channel sometimes a week early. So if you can't get enough Power Producers, that's where you go to get your fix. Number two, the Protege. The Protege is in full swing. We have uploaded the finalist videos that they produced to qualify, and that is going to be the central hub for the new reality TV show based on YouTube, where 10 producers from across the country compete for a fully paid lifetime scholarship to Killing Commercial Insurance. And let me tell you, if you haven't seen some of these videos, you are missing out. There are people throwing axes in there, people.
What?
It's insane.
I need to check that out. I have not seen that. I meant to ask you about that earlier this week. So
yeah, you got to check it out, man. There's some really good ones in there. And, I've been pretty proud of the people who have done it. But anyhow, enough self-promotion. Let's get into a little shop talk. People don't come to hear us talk about the things we're doing. They want to hear us talk about the things they could be doing. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about in this next little series, these next probably 4 or 5 weeks are going to have content that all surrounds around the same thing. And I figured it would be a good way to kick it off to talk about how to build effective carrier and client partnerships from the very beginning. I think it's a place agents really miss the boat in a lot of areas. And if you're new to middle market, you definitely don't even know that this is an option in most cases. Not saying that to make anybody feel bad about themselves, but at the end of the day, this is an educational moment, because if you've not written middle market before, you've probably never had to set up an account before you bind it the way that you do in the middle market. It's that simple.
It's a fair point.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to talk about so if you've not written middle market in the past, you really don't know a lot of the things that you have the flexibility to do. And it's not the agent's fault. It's because in small business, you just don't get the same kind of resources from a carrier that you do when you're in middle market, right?
Yeah.
So I can tell you, I learned very early, and let me stop and step back. Some of you guys are shady, okay? And if you are, we're probably not the right fit for you to listen to what we're going to talk about, because we talk about doing things the right way. And what I mean by that is sometimes agents don't want to involve the carrier to build the relationship because they're trying to slide a little something in the underwriting box that's not supposed to be there. And they think that they're actually benefiting themselves. Well, they probably are benefiting themselves financially for the short term to do that.
Right.
But you're really setting your client up for success and for failure, and you're setting yourself up for failure over the long term. Here's why I say that. I learned early on that one of the best things I could do is include the underwriter as quick as I could. Not obviously we have to include an underwriter with the submission, but I'm talking about it actually going out and seeing the client. I love if I'm going out on a brand new middle market opportunity, I'll have the first appointment. But when it gets time, and I'll probably close the deal. If it's going to be a normal deal for us where they hire us before the insurance transaction comes into play, then I will take the underwriter from the carrier. Or if we're marketing to multiple carriers, I may set up multiple meetings with underwriters from the different carriers that are interested in that account and have them go in and meet the leadership team. It's huge.
How open are the underwriters to doing that?
They freaking love it, man, because they don't have to sit behind a desk anymore. I mean, that is a huge way for you to gain credibility with an underwriter. Number one, it tells them, look, this dude has nothing to hide from me. He's opening up the kimono. He's shaking it and showing me everything he's got. I'm going to go in there and take a look at it. And they get a comfort level with the risk. They get to meet the people behind it. If we're going in and it's one of these situations where there's a little hair on the account.
That's what I was going to ask. Is this a situation where you're bringing them in where it's a little bit, there could be some losses? I mean, you're not necessarily taking them into a clean one, right? I mean, because at that point, it's like, what else is there to talk about with them?
Well, I do. I take them in both situations.
Okay.
Two reasons why. So number one, let's go with the big, fat, hairy, nasty account that we typically write. I want them to meet the people behind that account because they're willing to underwrite people to a certain degree. We're giving them the analytics they need in their submission. We're giving them premium versus loss summary. We're usually including the mod analysis. It's of a workers' comp issue. We're telling them all of the things that we're doing to try and improve it. We'll give them a copy of the custom learning track that we've created inside of Think HR, the learning management system that we're using in the agency. And they absolutely love that because it gives them a way to give the people in their organization what they need from a training standpoint, but it tracks it. They get certificates. You can celebrate around it, but it becomes a material part of the submission and the underwriter can see that. So they'll look at those kinds of things, even if the losses are bad and if the story's right, based on our track record and the fact that we've built that reputation over the years, we'll get things done that many times other people can't. Doesn't work all the time, but sometimes it does. On the flip side, let's go to what every other agency thinks about, right? If you're not selling on total cost of risk and you've got a clean account, the reason you take the underwriter out there is for them to touch and feel it so they can give you the max credits on the premium that you need to get the deal done from a financial perspective. That is not something that, you're just going to be able to articulate to them from behind a desk. Great example. I've got an account that is a really nice middle market account. They manufacture and develop the software for flight simulators for the Department of Defense. We are not in a favorable area for property.
Right.
So I have had that account with Chubb literally for 16 years. Every other year, it's not even every year at this point, but every other year, I bring the underwriter out, I bring the loss control person out, and I want them just to check everything to make sure they're still good with giving us the property capacity, that they understand the business income exposures and all of those things. So I want to include them in that. I have zero issues with that account. It is absolutely pristine, but I want their sign off on it because in some cases, especially if you're coastal like we are and you're getting ready to go into a hard market, sometimes it's not even about whether or not you're going to get the max credits. It's whether or not you're going to get admitted property or you're going to have to go to excess and surplus lines. So I like to include them from the very beginning, but it's not just the underwriter. We're going to talk in subsequent episodes about audit and claims, but I want to set the table for that because when we go out and we bring a new account on, or we're getting ready to bring an account to a carrier and we have, pricing, or maybe we're getting to the point where we're just getting ready to get it. I want a few things. I want 3 or 4 people to be there from the carrier. And I will ask this every time. And you know what? If that carrier is not interested in sending those people out for a meeting, or even at this point, I guess, to have a Zoom, then that's not the right carrier for our client. But I want the underwriter,
You would think they would be. Like, why wouldn't they, want to, right.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Underwriter, loss control, claims,
Mm-hmm.
and audit. That's who I want out there. One meeting.
So how do you coordinate that on the audit side of things? Just because in my experience, most of these auditors aren't really coming from the carrier, they're third party.
Depends on what stage of middle market you're in, but
Sure.
we're going to talk about that because I've actually got a plan for us to do a whole thing about how you set your client up for smooth audits from the very beginning. So
tickle, that's it.
Yeah, that's your teaser, people. But I mean, when you go out and you conduct that meeting and you come in and you show the solidarity of the people from the carrier being willing to invest their time, a couple of things. Number one, many times, I'm not going to say, I'm not even going to guess one of my random percentages that I usually pull out of my rear end.
67%.
According to recent studies, 72 and 1/6% of the, it's the first time a client's ever seen an underwriter.
Right.
Like they've never seen one before. Like
right.
None of them have ever come out. So
yeah, it's got to establish a little bit of credibility immediately for you.
It's like, wait a minute, who's this guy? Like he's got a team of 4 people from the carrier. I've been insured by the same agent for 7 or 8 years. I've never met him. Yeah, I've never met anybody from the insurance company, let alone this guy. And when I do see him, he's typically wearing his golf shorts and polo at 11:30 on a Friday before he hits that noon or tea time.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, once or twice a year. So you go in and you have instant credibility because you bring these people in. But then it allows, the magic to happen where the client is interacting with the carrier team is interacting with the client, and it puts a whole different spin on the relationship. It's no longer financial risk transfer. It's no longer, adversarial. You're literally on the same team. And one of the reasons that this is important for how I do things in my middle market accounts is because this begins the basis for the risk management action plan that's going to be executed going forward over the course of the year. So when we bring somebody in, we develop a plan at the onset of that relationship that basically says, here's what we're going to do for you. Here's the timeline it's going to get done. And here's who's responsible for what. It's a living document, and it's got 365-degree accountability. The agent has responsibilities. The carrier has responsibilities. The agency has responsibilities. And the client has some responsibilities. And then you break that down even further. Carrier, you want to give responsibility to claims, to audit, to loss control. To the client, you're going to give them their things that you need. And then also, you're gonna put yourself in a position to where the agent says, here's what I'm going to do for you, and here's what you can expect from my firm. And then depending on the complexity of the account and how bad a shape it's in, that's updated in real time. That's why I call it a living document. Boom. You never have to wonder where you're at. So many times, agents get to the end of a policy period, right about the time they're getting ready to renew, and they walk in with a stewardship report that says, hey, here's everything.
Love stewardship report.
I hate stewardship reports. Hey, here's everything we did for you. Please hire us, again next year.
Right.
Why do we wait until renewal for our clients to know what we've done for them? Why not establish what we're going to do for them and then hold ourselves accountable by updating those promises in real time over the course of the year, so the client always knows where things stand and what's been done? It makes so much more sense. And I'm not saying that if you have a $5,000 revenue account, that this is an approach you need to take. It doesn't.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It definitely is something you got to do with the middle market stuff. I mean, you should be touching them frequently. They should. I mean, I've got some of my accounts that reach out to me on a monthly, biweekly basis. So like that's the type of relationship that you want to develop, and it doesn't just happen from you showing up at renewal, every year without talking to them. It's got to be an ongoing thing over the course of the policy period. Now, obviously, some accounts require more, back and forth and more touching, but the overall premise is the same. Yeah,
absolutely. And, I want everybody to be thinking about that, because if if you're further downstream, it doesn't mean you suck as an agent. It just means that there's less meat on the bone for the carrier to give you resources, for the agency to invest resources. So you can listen to what we're talking about and modify that into something that works for you. But still, everybody's adopted technology at this point. So we should definitely be in a position where we could do Zoom meetings. That should be a hard and fast yes every time. I can understand maybe an issue.
I think everybody just accepts that as the norm now.
It is.
I mean,
it is. But I want everybody to hear a story, because this is what happens. This is the end result of building those kinds of relationships. And I really, really think that the positive outcome that I got on what could have been a really, really nasty situation with one of my accounts this week is a result of exactly what we're talking about. This is a crazy story, so just bear with me. I'm going to try and get it in like 5 to 10 minutes so that it's not too long, but very practical, and there's a lot of moving parts. So pay attention. Had a client that was a plumbing company insured by this carrier. I have another client that is an HVAC company insured by the same carrier. Unbeknownst to me, these two companies are talking to each other and decide that the HVAC company is going to consume the plumbing company, and they merge.
Mm-hmm.
Craziness. So number one, because of our relationship with this carrier that we've built relatively quickly, actually, I was able to get that carrier to put the new entity into their preferred company, because the plumbing company had been on the preferred.
Mm-hmm.
The HVAC company was only a year old. They didn't qualify. So they took the company that was going to be the ongoing entity and basically put it on the policy of the company that they're consuming, so that they could get the benefit of the ratings. Okay. So just understand, two companies, both my clients, same carrier, merged, one policy. Let's just say that company A, the plumbing company, wasn't always the best about reporting new pieces of equipment bought or many other things for that matter. However, we were on top of them. And so they had bought a brand new jetter to do commercial, jetting of lines in apartment complexes, whatever else. And they financed it. And I remember this vividly, because I was like, look, we need your asset list. I need everything that's over $5,000 to be scheduled on the inland marine form for contractors' equipment. We want to make sure that we've got the right amount of business income when we write that, so that if anything were to happen to any of this equipment, you're going to be reimbursed for that. Crickets. I got nothing. Followed up. When do you think that I got what I needed? Well, when I got it is when the finance company that financed the jetter decided they wanted the insurance on the stuff, so they force placed it, and my client hit the roof and said, "You never told us." Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. Let me send you the 36 emails that I had sent requesting information, and you told me I'd have it. I can't control, I can't control the situation if you don't give me the information. So we got the information, but it wasn't. They outsourced the getting of the information to the guy that was out where the equipment was. And he was the one who handled the serial numbers and all of that. So it sends me over the asset list in a chain of emails. We really only had a few things that needed to be scheduled. A couple of cameras, a big jetter, a small jetter, whatever else. Fast forward. Jetter gets stolen. New entity, right? It's the new entity. Jetter gets stolen at the beginning of October. I get the phone call. I go in and I look, and I'm like, okay, something's not right. This doesn't make sense. And I'm looking at it, and basically, when the numbers weren't matching up at all. Well, number one, we had insured it as a jetter that was mounted to a trailer. In the description, put the serial number of the jetter on there. Probably should have included the VIN of the trailer, but it wasn't on there. But it was very.
So hold up. Did the trailer get jacked?
Yeah, the trailer, the jetter, everything. Whole thing.
Okay.
The whole thing. And,
Yeah.
I'm looking at it thinking, okay, great. We needed to have the VIN number for the trailer on there, but we could probably push through that because it clearly says in the description, here's the serial number of the jetter mounted to a trailer.
So the jetter is covered on the auto.
Yeah. No, jetter was not. It was on a scheduled inland marine policy.
Okay.
So we schedule everything. And long story short, when the guy sent me the list, the large jetter was $48,000, but the serial number he gave me was for the smaller jetter, which was $9,000.
Awesome.
And so basically it was transposed on the policy. We're going back and forth with the adjuster. The adjuster can't make any sense of it because all of the police reports have the VIN number of the trailer, not the serial number of the jetter. But we were able to put together the finance agreement and everything and show that the serial number of the jetter was tied to that VIN. So we got past that. The problem is that according to the policy language, the jetter that was stolen was the one that was $9,000, not the one that was $48,000. And my client is freaking out. And I'm like, hey, hold on a second. Here's the email chain. Here's where I've asked for this stuff. Here's what was sent. We wrote this policy based on the information that you gave us. They said, well, we owe more than $9,000 on the big jetter to the finance company. We owe $20,000-$30,000. And I said, let me see what I can do. So we fast forward. We're going back and forth. The carrier respects us as a firm. They want more business from us, like all carriers do. But they also want the client because it's a growing company and it's a nice sized account. I mean, this account's probably $25,000, $30,000 in revenue and growing. This carrier, because of the relationship and because I was able to have educated conversations, number one, by the way, people, let me just step back for a second. If you ever have a client that has a large jetter get stolen and they find out there's a possibility it might not be covered, pretty stressful situation. They tend to freak out and say things they shouldn't say. And, I would just tell you, maybe it's a good idea that even when they send you the asset list, the next time you visit them, maybe just do a quick walkthrough and ask if you can double check that stuff to make sure, because I didn't want a loophole where it was going to come back and be any kind of an E&O to us. But I had all the documentation in the file.
Reminds me of the situation I had a few months ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the wrong serial number.
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead.
So anyhow, what ends up happening is this carrier says, we are going to do this for you. They went back. They made an endorsement onto the policy the day before the jetter. They backdated this endorsement to the day before the jetter was stolen. The endorsement swapped the serial numbers to the correct ones specifically so they could cover the claim.
Nice.
Like they went back and basically, let me just throw this little wrinkle in there. This thing renews November 9th. It renews next week. So we're literally 51 weeks from when this policy was written. And this list had been the same since 2019 or 2018 rather.
Right.
Because it just carried over from the two companies. So they went in and they agreed to flip-flop the policy, specifically looking for coverage, not to deny it. And that is why. I mean, if there's one case I can tell you about, that's one of them that if we didn't build that relationship right from the beginning and set those expectations right from the beginning, that claim wouldn't have been covered. Mm-hmm. Because we did, it was. And now my client got reimbursed for the jetter, and we wrote the business income on that correctly through an endorsement, and they're going to get the loss of income because we looked at the financials and you could just see where the sales completely dropped off the table when the jetter was stolen. I mean, they were pumping probably $150,000 a month with this piece of equipment up until that point. And here they are, a month later, and they just now are going to get the jetter replaced. You can only imagine what that business income claim is going to look like. So people set it up from the beginning. We could have tried to weasel our way around how to get that done. We were transparent in what the issue was. And because we were, and my argument when I did that was, look, guys, obviously we were intending to cover a $48,000 jetter and a $9,000 jetter. Both are on the policy. We've paid premium for both. it's a scrivener's error, a typographical, whatever you want to call it, that had the serial numbers wrong, but both were on the policy. So it's not like we were trying to have a warehouse full of jetters and only pay premium on one, and it would always be the one that was stolen, that we happen to have the serial number on. It's literally, we did what we knew the intent. And I think that's what got it across the finish line. If that wouldn't have been on the policy at all, or if it was only the $9,000 jetter on the policy, we're out of luck. But because they were both on there, we paid premium on them. It was pretty obvious what the intent was. So as you get into the middle market, people, you've got to make sure you're including these underwriters, the claims people, the auditors, and loss control in the process, because the outcomes you get for things that are going to happen in the future that you don't expect to happen now will be very positively impacted. And with that, we are wrapping up this episode. I got it in under 10. I hope everybody took something out of this. And make sure you tune in for the next couple, because they're going to be pretty solid too. Listen, if you listen to us every week and you like what you hear, make sure you're going to iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever it is you listen to us. Number one, subscribe. But number two, we would really, really appreciate it if you would leave us a review. For as many, thousands of you are listening to every episode we put out. We have 23 reviews on iTunes. That's despicable.
Oof.
Absolutely despicable. We need you people. We need the army. See ya.
You've been listening to Power Producers Shop Talk. You can follow us at the Power Producers Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to take your game to the next level, check out our commercial insurance training course at killingcommercial.com, or visit Amazon to pick up a copy of our international best-selling book, The Extra 2 Minutes.